So please tell us what tell us what your organization does to help people in your community. You can elaborate as much as you feel necessary.
All right, so my name's Jack. I'm a community health worker. I work for a nonprofit called the Transformation Project SD. We are located in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. That is our kind of base. So our purpose is to support and empower the transgender community, and also to educate the community as a whole, like the whole state of South Dakota. We do serve the whole state, not just this local area. So that in a nutshell is kind of what we do. We are a nonprofit, so we do operate on grants and donations and things like that.
Okay. And do you guys touch North Dakota at all, or is only South Dakota?
Right now, we're pretty much just in South Dakota, but we're trying to branch out to like neighboring states. If they're close, we can offer some assistance. We just can't. We don't have the staffing ability right now to really service more than what we're already doing. So, yeah, hopefully someday.
Yeah, that's excuse me. That's a good thing. I was gonna say, so the challenges that you deal with day to day, like what are the types of challenges you're dealing with every day that's, difficult to handle? And
were you done? Sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm done. I was just asking generally what are the challenges you're dealing with every day?
Yeah, so and I don't know where you're from exactly, but here in South Dakota, it's not the most progressive place for the transgender community. It's not necessarily the safest place for our community. So just, anything from finding housing to finding food to, just your basic necessities, finding healthcare, things like that. A lot of our trans community are homeless. And finding a safe place to live is also an issue for the trans community. That's probably the biggest thing that I deal with on a day-to-day basis. Those are the clients that I'm usually working with, usually homeless, or they're, staying with someone that's letting them stay there for a while. But, housing is one of the biggest problems. Also employment. I mean, if you just think about how hard it is to like go for a job interview and try to get a job, and then you just add a layer on of being part of the community and being transgender, which is not always accepted everywhere. And that adds a layer of fear and uncertainty when you're, whether they're trying to get a doctor's appointment or they're trying to get a job, right?
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to talk to people. You're probably going to have to disclose that you're transgender at some point, and then you don't really know how that's going to go. So my job is really connecting the trans community with the resources that are in our state that they need, because trans people still need a place to live. They still need healthcare. They still need jobs. They need everything that everybody else needs. There's just a layer of, there's an added barrier there by being transgender in this state. It makes it harder for them to feel comfortable reaching out to get those resources. So for me, a majority of my job is helping clients one-on-one directly find resources and helping them in any way I can to help them better their lives. And then the second thing I do is educate. So I go to all these different places, like what are the different healthcare centers, what are, the homeless shelters and all of these other resources that people can access. And I actually go there and say, hey, what is your policy on diversity? Do you have a policy around the LGBTQ plus community? Like to talk about it. Can I tell you how you can better serve the trans community? So that's kind of my job, is both of those things, and then trying to make the community better and educate them on how to better serve the transgender people that live here.
No, just from my personal perspective, like I'm from New York originally. Came to Houston when I was like 32 years old, but when I first moved here, I noticed the difference in how people, and not even necessarily Houston, but once I started going outside of the Houston area, more rural, I started to see how people were. Just with race as well. Just people just if they weren't familiar with something, they just had this defensive reaction to it, and they're not understanding that they actually, if someone's not really hurting you, it doesn't matter what their life is about. It just let them live their life, let them be happy. They're not hurting you unless someone's actually physically trying to harm you or something. People live their life. They're not hurt. No one's getting hurt. So it does. I did notice that when I came to Houston. For a short time, I worked in the oil field for like 3 or 4 months because I couldn't find work, and I was like, I can't take these people. they're just so out of touch with having decent manners. And I don't even want to get into saying certain things because it's being recorded, but there's a lot of things that were said that were very inappropriate. And there's yeah, people need to be educated on things and just understand where people are coming from and let people pursue their life, liberty, and happiness.
Yeah.
I'm screwing up the way it's said, but yeah.
No, I get what you're saying, but so that's basically what I try to do. And when I'm trying to educate, like I'm a trans person myself, so I'm trying to educate these places, but I'm not, I don't get mad. I don't get offended. I'm like, let's ask the questions. Like, let's have the difficult conversations now. So when you're serving the community, they don't have to be the ones to educate you on these things. Let's just do it now. And, it's hard to open yourself up and be like, okay, maybe I was doing something wrong and I need to know a better way to do it. But as soon as you open yourself up to that, the sky's the limit. That's all we can ask people is just be willing to listen, and maybe learn something new today. Like that's kind of how I go into these things. Like I'm not trying to change your mind or change your opinions. I'm just trying to educate you on this other part of the community that you're living with and interacting with, so that kind of how to better serve that community of people.
Yeah, and I do unfortunately think politics gets in the way of a lot of things, and it makes people it's all very divisive, and it's not the understanding. Because I think to myself, like Michael Jackson was, or Prince, they were outside of gender norms. Let's just put it that way, and no one cared. They were revered across the world. So it should be the same thing with anything: color, race, gender. So yeah, it's gonna. We'll get there, I think, eventually.
Yeah, hopefully.
So I was gonna say, so how are you overcoming these challenges? Like, what types of things are you doing to like, what's your strategies to overcome these, to get people to?
Yeah, so my biggest strategy is just finding the places where there's gaps. So when I'm working with the homeless community, there's a lot of resources that they need and they're trying to access, and they're not feeling comfortable doing so. So I just reach out to these places and I'm like, hey, this is who I am. This is where I work. This is the community of people that I'm serving. Are you open to having a conversation? And I can have a 10-minute conversation or a 2-hour conversation. That is up to them. I can go over the basics of what it means to be transgender in 10 minutes, if that's all the time they want to give me, or we can talk about it for 2 hours. Taking tours of all of the places, going over like what is the process going to be when I send a client to your resource. So if I send a client to a clinic, what's it going to look like for them when they walk in the door? Who's going to greet them? What are they going to say? What are they going to need? What's going to happen after that? Because you really have to put yourself in your client's shoes in all of these situations, so that when you say, well, hey, now I have this really cool clinic you can go to, here's the address, have a good day. That's too vague. Like these people need to know what they're going to expect when they walk in the door. Who's going to greet them? What they're going to say? Is it going to be okay? Is it going to be safe? And really knowing the process step by step makes people feel more comfortable to access these things, because we have a whole community of people who are not accessing healthcare when they need to, just because of all the fear and the uncertainty around it. So that's really how I think nothing's going to change if I don't just get out there and hit the pavement and go to these places and be like, hey, are you open to have a conversation? And I have had,
Exactly.
90% of the places are like, yep, let's set out a time for you to come in and talk to our staff. And just, I'm sure there's things we don't know or things we could do better. And that's really what I'm looking for.
So with you using Plant Street, how has our software helped facilitate that? Or how has that changed anything with regard to how you were doing things before using our software? Like, anything specific that it's helped with?
It's helped with a lot. So before we had Plant Street, we just had like a Google Doc, right? So people would email us and that was kind of their intake form. They'd fill out some kind of specific information. It would go to a spreadsheet and then we would just work off of that. But there wasn't really the capability of keeping notes, tracking our clients. So it's just, we have our founder and then myself and one other employee. So it's a very small group of people. But that also means that we're all really, really busy, right? So we don't have time to check in with each other all the time on every single client that we're helping. And sometimes they're going to multiple people for multiple things. So this way, now that we have Plan Street, it's really a way that we can track them, and we can track who's talked to them, what services have been provided to them, and what services have they already utilized. So then we're not doubling up on things, or we're not missing things. We're able to kind of see, okay, they were homeless. Now we kind of gave them these resources. And then we can follow up with them and be like, okay, we see that you were sent to XYZ place. How is that going? Is that a place that worked out? If it doesn't, we can note that. We also have an intern working for us, so it's kind of helpful for them to just be able to see like how that process works. In case they decide to kind of stay in a nonprofit field and kind of see how a smaller team of people really tackles a whole state of problems. So it has been super helpful.
No, that's a good thing. And just the overall, like, what are the messages do you have about, whatever you want to get out there that you feel is important for people to know about what you do, or the community that you're helping? Any messages that you want to get out there that this is a good chance to get it out there for them?
Yeah, so I think, anybody that's familiar with our state and what's been going on in the last couple of weeks, we've had some pretty tough blows in the legislature. We had a bill that was passed, HB 1080, that bans all healthcare for anyone all transgender healthcare for anyone under the age of 18 in our state. That will take effect, unfortunately, next January. It was signed into law. It's going to happen, which means there's a whole group of people that are no longer going to have access to the life-saving healthcare that they need here. So we are going to be looking to the people of the state to really step up. We're going to need donations because we're going to need money to help all of these families with these kiddos that are going to have to travel. Some of them are going to have to move. There's going to be a lot of expenses involved with making sure that they can still have access to their life-saving care. So please just check out all of our social media. We're on all the socials, Transformation Project SD. You can go to our website. You can donate there if you want. Also sign up to volunteer, and you can just reach out to any of us if you want any more information or if you want to help in any way.
No, I was just thinking about that because my wife and I, we watched that show on about Jazz Jennings and I was thinking to myself, if she hadn't been allowed to do what she had done, because if she seems very well adjusted, and imagine if she hadn't had the ability to get any care, just like, no, just deal with it until you're an adult. Who knows where, so you get it. It's not a black and white issue. There's doctors and medical professionals and parents, they should be able to work together, but there shouldn't be a ban from the state on that, or any government agency. Let the medical professionals make that decision, not the government.
We agree with that. So we agree with that 100%. That's why we are committed 100% to stepping up and helping these families with whatever we can possibly do to help them through, after the rest of the year plays out, then the beginning of next year, they're going to need a lot of support and a lot of help. And we're fighting every way to make sure that we have the support that we need to give them.
It just seems like a lot of the I don't know, a lot of people just maybe are not educated enough or informed enough, or they're too close-minded to want to learn anything. They're like, no, block it. Just the way they tried to, they had prohibition back in the day. They had they try to, now marijuana's become a little more accepted, but there's just been too much. Nope, that's it. No discussion about it. You can't work in absolutes.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's why that's one of our biggest thing is to try to educate the community as a whole, and educate the state as a whole, just to help everybody be able to live here and feel welcome here and feel safe, and be able to access any help that they need to access.
Absolutely.
Super important.